teach you about dollars while making you laugh. When it comes to money, don't be slackers. Listen to Galia and Susan, Susan and Galia. Galia and Susan, they're the Fiscal Firecrackers. Yeah. Take it, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
On that note, everybody, I'm Susan Yeagley.
And I'm Galia Gishan.
And we are the Fiscal Firecrackers. And this is the show where we have a complete blast while learning to make our money last. We will educate, entertain, and empower you with your money. We have been so delighted with the influx of emails with your questions that we've decided to devote another episode entirely to them. So please keep those wonderful questions coming. You can go to fiscalfirecrackers.com and we would love to hear from you. So shall we jump in with the first question?
Yes, I love hearing these questions. It reminds me so much of the work that I'm doing with clients. And I'm thinking about how I'm going to answer them. And then I love hearing Susan's perspective. So yes, please keep your letters coming.
Okay, here we go. Dear Fiscal Firecrackers, if we inherit investments from our parent, should we and even can we keep them invested in the same places until we retire, or should we combine them with our portfolio in some way? Thanks, Jessica.
Such a great question. These are all great questions. So before I answer, Susan, what do you think? Do you think you should keep them at the place where your parents had it?
Oh boy. I'm going to say, let's see, if this happened to me, I'd probably maybe leave it there for 6 months until I felt real cozy in it, and then grab it all out and put it with my people.
So this question has two answers. The first answer is not financial. So my instinct is the same, but it's going to be no, don't leave it there. And by the way, I've had this come up with many clients, even ones that just inherited a few $1,000s. And the first thing most of them said is that they didn't have a relationship with that firm or most likely a person that was managing their money. It was their parents' advisor. Or it was their parents' firm. And so the first thing I say, and I'm never one to say, sever the relationship, move on. The first thing I say is, let's try and make the most of it. So set up a meeting with them, tell them your goals, see, and I actually have a checklist of how to work with an advisor or questions that you can ask. And most of them said right away, oh, they were embarrassed, they felt shameful, they felt like it was a parent talking to them. So that right there is not a good relationship. But do try. And really the key questions to ask is have them go over with you what you are inheriting. Really explain to you what you own. Make sure they know your goals. Your goals might be, I want to buy a house in 2 years. I want to send my kid to college. I want to take a year off and write the great American novel. They're going to be different from your parents' goals. And then finally, ask what you're paying in fees. Is it a percentage of assets under management? Is it that they're just selling you mutual funds? There's nothing wrong with asking, what is this going to cost me?
Gotcha. Okay.
So start there. And you know what? It could be a great relationship.
Do you think it's advantageous to go ahead and know your parents' money people while your parents are alive, to kick the door open a little bit and say, who are you with and what firm? And do you like that guy named Oliver who handles your Roth and your SEP?
No, I think this is like part of the discussion as your parents age, just really getting to know the key financial areas of their life. So getting to know their advisor, their lawyer, things like that. So absolutely. I think that's a good, why not? And then why not?
But just don't hang out there a lot. No. You don't want your parents to see you in the elevator or in the parking garage with a bag of Cheetos going, I'm here all the time. I love Oliver. Oliver's told me so much about you, Mom and Dad.
Right. Yeah. But communication is key. So then the next part of this question is that once you've inherited this money, it now becomes what's called an inherited IRA.
What's that?
So this is literally money that's in an IRA form that you inherit from your parent or a spouse. So it's an IRA that was saved under their tax and their age, but now you've inherited it.
Okay.
And you can transfer it anywhere you want. You can transfer it to Fidelity, to Schwab, to Vanguard, to any place you want. It'll just stay in the form of an inherited IRA. You can move investments within it. So it just has a few different rules on how you take the money out. But it is your money. You can't add more money to it, but you can take money out and you can put it wherever you want.
Okay, so your suggestion is when your parents pass and they've left you an inheritance, to take it out of that building with the people they've been with and bring it to your table, your home, your people.
Give it a chance first, because maybe it's in a place that you do end up liking. So, give it a chance, have dinner, break some bread, talk to them first. But more likely than not, you're going to transfer to where you want to be. Now, you cannot add it to your Roth or your SEP. It's going to literally be a separate IRA on your statement, but you can invest it any way you want. You can choose not to pay fees on it. So it's really just how you take the money out. And there's some very specific rules about that. So you do have to take a certain percentage of it out of the IRA per year.
So maybe a good plan would be to meet Oliver, who handles your parents' money, and then take your money person, Lucy, and everybody go out for tostada.
Exactly.
And just talk about it.
Right.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, you can also bring the robo-advisor and they can sit at the table also. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Next question. And that first one was fantastic. Dear Fiscal Firecrackers, I'm almost 76 years old. I am retired and my retirement funds are tied up with a financial planner in stocks and whatever. My FP advises to wait and see what my just under $300,000 will do, gives me a choice, but offers no advice. I started saving late, unfortunately. I also have $70,000 in my bank and have no idea what to do with it, with the market being in such turmoil. I'm also not a big risk taker, but welcome any suggestions. Thanks so much, Carl.
Woo, the market sure is crazy, Carl.
Oh, it's a roller coaster.
It is. It is. It's back up today, but this has been a tough week. I think I have a few more gray hairs. So first, Carl, I would say I'm going to give you some great advice now, but do listen to our podcast on money magic in hard times. Like, we do talk about this on how to deal with your money when the market's going up and down. But some quick tips, Carl. So of course, I'm going to start with the fees. So chances are you're paying your financial advisor a percentage. And if you have $300,000, that's $3,000 a year. And if you really need that money, Carl, maybe you should transfer the money to Vanguard, where you will save $3,000 a year.
Okay, that's good.
Now, it's really hard to sell right now because you're selling at the low. So if you really, really need the money, and it sounds like you've got the $70,000 in cash in your bank, but if you really, really need some money, sell just a crumb, sell a little bit. And I actually did that this week with 3 clients. They were so nervous, they were so anxious, and it's not that they needed the money so badly, but they just wanted to feel like they could do something that they were in control of. So we just sold a small amount just to maintain the balance.
Okay, that's just good for anxiety levels,
yes,
probably.
Absolutely.
Okay.
What you can do, Carl, and it sounds like, and I don't know your portfolio here, but it sounds like it's mostly in stocks, which frankly, the fact that you're 76 years old, and if most of your portfolio is in stocks, you probably weren't given great advice. At your age, it should be at least 50% bonds and 50% stocks. And even this week, when the market was going down, bonds were going down much less than stocks. Literally, bonds went down 7-8% and stocks went down 15%. So having a diversified portfolio with percentages in stocks and bonds is so important, especially in down markets and especially if you're close to retirement like you are, Carl. So take this time to reallocate your portfolio to at least 50-60% bonds and the rest in stocks.
Now, what about someone who's 50 like me? What should be my percentage?
So the very, very rough rule of thumb is your age in bonds, and I subtract about 10%. So I'm the same age as you, so I have about 35% in bonds.
Okay, that's a good rule.
Yeah.
And how do you check the expert with these FPs, which means financial planner if you're going to a dinner party? VC means venture capitalist, FP's financial planner. What kind of culpability people have here? I mean, how do you check? How does he know? How does Carl know his money is with the right person?
Oh, I wish there was an easy answer to that. But the first thing you can do is see if there's any litigation or any official complaints with the SEC against him. So that is something that you can check.
Okay, because I was in this store a few years ago, this women's clothing store, and this lady, she's probably in her late 70s, folding sweaters into rectangles. And I got to talking to her, sweet as can be. I mean, sweet, like honey pie, sweet. And I said, oh, do you enjoy working here? And she said, well, my money was all with Bernie Madoff. And so I'm folding sweaters now.
So the only thing I would say about that, what you can't do, that is so sad, so tragic.
I know.
And what anyone can do, whether you have a financial advisor or a money manager, is you can spend the money and just meet with someone who's truly independent. And you literally would just pay them for the hour. So for example, I did that a few years ago. I had a client who was a woman who was a CEO of a large media company in New York. And she said, I think I have a great advisor, money manager, but can you just look at my portfolio? And I did. And I essentially taught her about what she owned and things that she could do. And then she could go back and say, I like this, I don't like this. And here was an example, is that her advisor wanted to sell her this, what's called a limited partnership. And he wanted to sell her, it was like $500,000. It was a crazy amount of money. And I said, besides the fact that it's risky and this and that, here's questions to ask when you're buying a product like that. And she didn't get that advice from him. So if you can meet with someone who's independent to look at your portfolio, it'll just cement your relationship with your advisor.
Right. Like a mediator.
Yes, exactly.
Because we're with these people who I love. At the same point, I always have kept my bank account from 1990. I opened when I was in college in downtown LA with this bank. And even my checks still say customer since 1990. And I love it. And it's got my name on it. And I remember the pride I felt of going in when I was 18 and opening up my own checking account. And they had lollipops in a basket and I had 4 of them. And I love when a bank feeds me. I just love it. So even though I've got, all this stuff with my husband and it's combined and we've got the money people, I love having my drawer of my checks from 1990 with my own account. It feels great. And if this world burns up and God forbid something awful happens where we are, I'll always have those checks and I have those accounts, and it just feels, it's my sleep at night money, right?
Absolutely. Money isn't always about the numbers. It's about how we feel or feelings with it. So I love that, Susan. I love that you're keeping some money separate. You're keeping some money in your own name. You're keeping it where it's your relationship. And that's really, really important.
And the thing is, too, I'm not hiding it. I've told Kevin.
Right, of course.
Yeah. I've said, I've given him a list. Here's where I have hidden money all over town. And he's got a list of 8 places where I've hidden it. And so it's not hiding from my spouse. I've just told him where it is. And I said, you can give me your list of where you've been putting stuff. He said, I have no list. And he's right. He doesn't have a list. He's got all of it. It's all together. But I just need to be a little squirrel because God forbid there's a disaster. I like my emergency kits.
You do.
I like all that stuff.
You do. So Carl, I just want to give you one more tip that while I was researching your question, I actually found 2 mutual funds at Vanguard, which would be ideal for someone in their late 70s or who's very close to retirement. And while we don't recommend specific investments, these are 2 great funds that I would suggest you look at. And one is called the Vanguard Life Strategy Income Fund. And the other one is Vanguard Life Strategy Conservative Growth Fund. And these are mutual funds that literally one has 80% bonds, 20% stocks, and the other has 60% bonds, 40% stocks. And they're both earning about 3 to 6% a year.
Carl's going to love that.
I know.
Go get him, Carl. All right. Last question. Here we go. Dear Fiscal Firecrackers, help. Grocery store and gas pump prices are going up. Yes, they are. Any advice on how to deal with inflation and still keep to my financial goals? Thanks, Budgety Bridget.
They definitely are going up. I mean, gosh, I filled my car up with gas yesterday. I literally just had Instacart deliver groceries, and normally it's 180. It was 220. So I am seeing it absolutely firsthand. So the first thing, and I'm going to say this, is I always start with the numbers. Before we figure out the anxiety of things going up, let's realistically see how much more we are spending. And this really, really helps curb your worry. I literally do this exercise and I see people's shoulders go down. So let's figure out exactly how much more you are spending due to inflation. Is it $300? Is it $500? Let's really get that number. And if you can, and I'm telling you, just finding out how much more I'm spending every month, that is a huge, huge first step, because you're not in denial. You're not burying your head in the sand. You're not feeling your breath cut short every time you're at the grocery store. So realistically, take the last month, look at what your grocery bills were, like really come up and say, did I spend only 100 more, 200, 500?
Okay.
And then again, let's try to find that money elsewhere. So for example, I just reshopped my home insurance. I got $300 a month savings in home insurance.
What? How do you reshop home insurance?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I went with a different broker.
That's smart.
So that's not even going to affect, and it's a good plan. It's not even affecting my daily life. And I found $300 right there.
That's a lot of marinara sauce.
I know. So maybe that's just enough to cover what I'm spending extra at the grocery store and the gas pump. So that's obviously a really big thing. But then there's using streaming channels. Get rid of them. Shop at a different grocery store. I hate going to Costco. Hate going to Costco. But I love the savings I get at Costco. So I did do my grocery store shopping via Instacart at Costco. So I didn't have to go in there per se, but I still got the savings.
Oh, that's smart. Mm-hmm. Send somebody else to get the big tub of mustard.
Exactly. And then, there's a lot of these other tips that we've talked about, like maybe trade in your car if you can find a new car, but maybe do trade in your car or share a car. And then you can say, okay, I'm not finding that much money. So now let me cut back. Maybe we'll just eat out once a week instead of twice a week. Or for vacation, I was going to actually go away with my girls this summer and I was planning all these big vacations. And I thought, you know what, maybe we'll just drive. So I can sort of cut back in a place that feels good to me. And the last tip I'm going to say is still save. Maybe you were saving more. Don't cut back on your savings. Still keep putting more money into the savings account.
I'm a little bit in denial about gas prices because 2 days ago I filled up my car and it's a hybrid, so I don't have to fill it up at just once a month. But I didn't want to see because I know how expensive gas is in California. So I got a pizza box out of the back seat and I held it up near the gas pump and I just covered up the price and waited for it to click. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was filled up. And then I just grabbed my car out and then, do you want receipt? No receipt. And I didn't want to see it. I just don't want, because I know it's bananas.
I love that. I love the visual of you holding up the pizza box.
I held up a pizza box. I said, let's not Gable's in the car with me. I said, son, let's not look. I said, look, let's just not look. He's like, Mom, aren't you on a financial podcast? We're supposed to know these things. I said, I know, but it's.
All right. So that's your homework is to look. It's like, I feel like when I go to the gym and I put the towel on the treadmill over the numbers, because if I sit there and watch the numbers, I'm like, what? I've only walked or run for 2 minutes. It feels like 10.
Yeah. So it's, I should look, but it's just painful. It hurts. It hurts that it's almost $7 a gallon.
It is really crazy because we're still under $5 a gallon here in Connecticut. But if you knew that you were finding that money somewhere else, would you feel less anxious about it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So if $7 a gallon and say it's 15 gallons.
It was probably about $100, over $100 to fill it.
Right. So maybe that's $30 more than you normally pay. And if that was something that you wanted to do, say, where can I find $30?
All right. So last question I have for you, Miss Galia. You do not know this question. This is a surprise. So here it is. Dear Galia, we know you are a fancy financial planner and a college professor of finance. If you weren't these things, what career profession would you be? And before you answer, I have three things I think you could be. 1, a steamboat captain. So I know you love boating in the ocean.
I do.
2, a designer of face and neck creams. Or 3, an art or museum docent.
My instinct was to answer about art because I love contemporary art. In fact, I met with a startup this morning who has a new amazing startup for focusing on women and non-binary artists. And I'm one of her advisors and I was so excited meeting with her. But I might do number 2, the face cream and neck cream designer.
You love your creams.
I do.
Lady loves to be creamed up.
I do. And I would love to do something that is for the masses without the chemicals, that's affordable, that has distribution, that has good margins. So here, look, I'm still going about the finance part of it, but yes. Mm-hmm.
That's smart. Fiscal Firecrackers face cream.
Yes. All right.
I love it.
Miss Susan, I have a question for you too. Mm-hmm. Dear Susan, if you could have dinner spending quality time with anyone, dead or alive, whom would it be? And I don't have choices for you because I'm not that creative.
Buddha.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to ask questions about peace and finding inner calm, because I think it's really hard to be spinning on the world right now and making choices and trying to keep it all together. And it would be very helpful and healing for me to meet with somebody who has mastered that, has mastered happiness.
Inner serenity.
Mm-hmm. All right. God, this just goes so quickly. Golly, we've wrapped up another episode of the Fiscal Firecrackers, which is such a Valentine for us to do. We love doing this podcast.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
If you love it too, please tell your friends, have them download it, have them write a review. We welcome all feedback. And also, if you have a question for us, once again, go to fiscalfirecrackers.com and you can ask Galia and myself anything you want.
Yes. And please don't forget to rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Yeah, that's important too.
Mm-hmm. It really, really helps us.
All right, guys. Till next time, say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean.
While this podcast contains information about finances and investments, financial results discussed herein are not necessarily typical and are not a guarantee of future success. The creators of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. The podcast should not be considered professional advice and is not a substitute for a financial planner or investment banker. Please seek professional guidance and do your own research before investing. Can I have some water?